I'm not going to talk too long because we brought some people here that have a much more important message to give you than I can give you. I just want to thank everybody for your support again, and you know, every year we get on the phone and we start calling everybody, inviting the doctors and asking our sponsors for donations, and I start promising things, and I always seem to say that I'm going to try to make it bigger and better for you guys every year, so I just need to ask, did we deliver? This whole event is because of you guys. We need the doctors to come in and share your knowledge and help families. We need the sponsors to fund this so that we can bring the doctors and families. And you guys are just amazing, and I still every day I'm blown away that you have all trusted me and that you come and that you give me your money to do this event, and you take time off from work and close clinic to come and talk to families for free and get people better care. And I can't thank everybody enough. I'm so blessed to have all of you guys in our life. We're not going to bore you all night with a bunch of talking. We have a couple of important messages to get you, and we're going to bring you a little bit of music. So my first speaker, I would like to bring up somebody who I consider a longtime friend and mentor, who started me in my career in EEG and has been an amazing guiding light for me and has kept me very focused. So please welcome Simon Griffin.
Brad? Of course he doesn't do that, does he? So imagine watching your child struggle with uncontrollable seizures, not knowing when the next one will come, or what long-term damage it might cause. For many of you, you don't have to imagine that, you know this from personal experience. For families and children with genetic and other forms of epilepsy, this can be a real reality, but as we know, it's not just children, because epilepsy does not discriminate. This evening I stand before you to talk about something vital, and that is hope. Hope that we, the people in this room, collectively can change this reality. Each of you plays a key role in the lives of these families, whether it's through developing life-saving treatments, developing better diagnostic solutions, or providing much needed emotional and physical support. The last 2 days, I've had the privilege of walking around the expo hall with the video team, asking industry experts what they're doing to change the realities for families. And it is clear from the continued innovation, collaboration, and compassion that we can offer real hope to patients and families facing these hard-to-control epilepsies. The group of disorders caused by abnormalities in genes that control how the brain's nerve cells communicate are especially complex. For children, it often means living with unpredictable seizures, developmental delays, and cognitive challenges. And the impact on the families and caregivers is absolutely staggering. Treatment for some is much more challenging, and as many traditional therapies fail to control seizures, while medications and surgeries have improved outcomes for some, many patients and families still search for solutions that fit their unique condition. The complexity of their condition demands tailored approaches. It's been an incredibly exciting 2 days for me as I was able to learn about some of the groundbreaking work in gene therapy, targeted drug development, and precision medicine. By understanding the genetic underpinnings of these disorders, we can create treatments that work with the biology of each patient. Beyond medicine, the support services such as therapy dogs and the many foundations that are present here are giving patients and families incredible levels of support and offering them new ways to navigate the world. What I learned today is that hope doesn't just come from one solution. It comes from a network of support, medical, emotional, and technological. It all works together to improve the quality of life. For parents, there's nothing more agonizing than the uncertainty that epilepsy brings, the unpredictable seizures, the constant hospital visits, the never-ending quest for effective treatment take an emotional toll. And this is why it is so critical to give families the strength to keep going. When a family attends Epilepsy Awareness Day event at Disneyland, they can't fail to see progress. Whether it's a medication that reduces seizures or a therapy that has the potential to bring calm to their child, it fuels their resilience. It truly gives them hope. The work done by the people in this room is not just about managing a condition. It's about giving a person the chance to thrive. So continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Be relentless in the pursuit of new therapies. Keep innovating. Keep pushing for new treatments that target the root causes. The families are counting on you to turn breakthroughs in the lab into life-changing medicines. For those providing support service like therapy dogs, your work is just as crucial. You give families something medicines alone cannot, a sense of safety, companionship, and empowerment. Hope is not a passive emotion. It is something we create together, from the labs developing new therapies, to the trainers teaching dogs, to be heroes. To each of us has a role in building a better future for these children. For every patient facing epilepsy, for every family searching for answers at this unique event, there is hope. And that hope is us, the people in this room, working together to innovate together, believing that we can make the impossible possible. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for being part of the solution. Thank you for being part of the Epilepsy Awareness Days at Disneyland. And thank you for putting hope into the eyes of the families that I was able to meet today. So what I'd like to do now is introduce the founders of Electric Minds, Dr. Daniel Snellgrove, and Nashville recording artist, Drew Dixon.
He's very tall. First, I want to thank Brad and Candy for putting this together. This is our first time here, and it truly has been a transformative experience. So just to give you guys a little background about us, so Drew and I are both from Columbia, South Carolina. And that's right. Columbia? All right. Yeah, there we go. All right. And we became friends growing up simply through our love for basketball. And we both have our own stories, but we both were affected and impacted by epilepsy. I had a very long journey with epilepsy starting at the age of 12. I told this story earlier, and I'll be brief. Brad, you said I have about 45 minutes? I'm just kidding. But so I was a delusional 12-year-old when I was diagnosed with epilepsy. I was your normal kid, very clearly knew what I was going to do in life, and that was going to be a United States Naval Academy graduate and be a naval aviator. I was like convinced I was going to be Top Gun or something like that, right? And if that didn't work out, that was fine, because I was like 6'1" at the time. I was convinced I was probably going to grow another 5-6 inches, and I was going to go play in the NBA. So I had life all kind of set up for me. The day I was diagnosed with epilepsy, my parents had taken a video. We came down to the medical university in South Carolina, and the epileptologist looked at the video, walks back in, he's like, I just want to let you guys know, Daniel has epilepsy. And I'm like a clueless kid, just kind of bouncing around. Why the hell am I in this doctor's office, blah, blah, blah. And he looks at me and he goes, Daniel, I just want you to know there's nothing in this world that you can't do. Which is amazing, right? Like, that's like what you hope your doctor does, is meet you on your worst day and be there with you and tell you you're not going to be impacted by this. But then he has a moment of realization and he catches himself, and me and my family laugh about it now. He goes, actually, the only thing I can think of that you can't do is fly an airplane. And this poor guy had no idea that that's literally, I had been obsessed with doing that. And so that was my journey into epilepsy. And like everyone else that has their story with epilepsy, it was long and winding. There were lots of setbacks. There were lots of highs. There were lots of lows. But I had a crazy, persistent family that would not rest for one moment hoping and praying that there was a better answer to our problems. I was fortunate when science and treatments got a little bit better. I was able to undergo a brain surgery, and I've been seizure-free since August of 2003. And that brings me to Drew, because like I said, he knew my journey because it was because of my mom, and also probably because we were so vocal about things. I was very sick. He had the other experience with epilepsy. I had no idea the entire time we were friends until we were in college. I think I might have almost been in medical school, when he calls me up and says, hey man, I have epilepsy and I had a seizure the other night on an airplane. And I'm like, hold on a second. Like, I've known this guy since I was a kid. I had epilepsy and I didn't even know my best friend had epilepsy. And that's the problem with epilepsy, right? Like, you guys don't need me to tell you that if you know 26 people, you know someone with epilepsy. You don't need me to tell you that, epilepsy affects more people in the United States than it does with cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, MS, or Parkinson's disease combined, right? But as a neurologist, epilepsy, I know this because I've experienced it on both sides. It's not the sexy diagnosis. And it doesn't get the attention that it deserves, and it's stayed in the shadows. Part of what we hope to change is starting our foundation, Electric Minds. And honestly, we have no idea what the hell we're doing. We're like 13 months old. I've latched on to Brad and Candy, and we're riding this wave. But, we firmly believe so much of the diagnosis of epilepsy is met with your limitations, right? Especially when you're a young adolescent. What you can do, what you can't do. And it's very easy to become hopeless. And at the time, I was 12. I didn't really understand, my brain didn't think like things were hopeless or not. I would just come up with a crazy dream, and that was going to be what I was going to do, right? But, hope is such an important part of the journey and the diagnosis. Hope is what fuels resilience. Hope as a physician is what inspires us. What the hell am I doing if I feel like I can't help a patient, if I can't help a family? And it might not always be, that doesn't mean that there's a cure for everybody right now, right? Like we said, it's the 21st century, but we still have a long ways to go. And I think one thing the epilepsy community is finally starting to realize is we need to do what our friends in the Alzheimer's community did 20 years ago. What our friends in the MS space have done, and all these other demyelinating disorders, and it's quit operating in these silos at these incredible academic institutions and start inspiring each other and working together for a common goal. And people with epilepsy, they deserve that. They shouldn't have to live in the shadows and be ashamed. My best friend, 2 kids that have epilepsy, going through the quintessential years of their life, right? Like, we shouldn't be finding out 10 years later that both of us were struggling with the same thing. But, that it's baked into the diagnosis. We're scared to share that. And that's a long-winded explanation for why we've started Electric Minds. The hope, the goal, Drew is a very talented, y'all are about to witness, just an incredible musician, beautiful writing, just absolutely incredible. And him and I began talking a few years ago, like, you know what, man, we really need to like do something to help the community out. And we don't know what that is or what it was at the time, but we've started having music events where, you know, we had a wonderful event this past year in Nashville. We'll invite y'all all to come out next summer in Nashville during CMA Fest week. And it's about getting people in the door. Yeah, we're going to have amazing music and bands and singer-songwriters. But hey, while you're here, there's going to be purple everywhere. And we're going to be in your face about, guess what? I had epilepsy. And actually, I don't even say had anymore. I have epilepsy. I fully believe it's a part of my DNA. It's who I am. It's the only reason why I'm a doctor. And he has epilepsy. All the people he's worked with, he's been in Nashville for how long? And prior to our event, not a single person up there knew that he had epilepsy. So the goal is to change that. We want to advocate, we want to inspire, we want to give visibility to epilepsy. And the only way we know how to do that right now is through music. And what we hope to do is eventually our goal, our kind of passion for this would be to create education programs in our community, at the schools, where kids with epilepsy can have a place to go if they want to learn how to write poetry, they want to learn how to sing, they want to learn how to write music, play an instrument. Hey, we're going to give you that outlet. Like, screw everybody else saying you can't do this, you can't do that. There's a whole other world out there of things that can inspire you, and we want to help do that. We want to inspire people with epilepsy. I could talk on and on, but I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Brad and Candy. I love y'all. Mom and Dad, thank you. I love you guys. My mom's dad over here. Sorry, and my sister's here. My beautiful aunt. Hello, Aunt Diane. And then my lovely wife, Emily, is also here. So I love you guys. Thank y'all. And without further ado, Mr. Drew Dixon.
To wrap this show up with a powerful message, Dr. Amanda Pong. Did I say that right? Is that it?
How am I supposed to follow this? I'm a classical musician. Nobody cares about this. All right. Can you see me? All right, doesn't matter. Well, there's always a wrinkle. I was expecting slides. Do you not remember this conversation we had? Never mind. All right. So, yes, when Brad told me about tonight, my mind went back to a time when I was a baby resident, and I was running about in these cement stairwells between neuro-oncology units, which is quite brutal, you can imagine, and my attending, Dr. Scott Pomeroy, who actually I just heard is retired as the chief of Boston Children's for neurology, he turns to me suddenly and he says, "Never take away hope." And I feel like that admonition has in some way led me to today, this moment. And I think that now, in 2024, we would not be wrong to dream the bigger dream. And normally I would talk to you in mechanisms and numbers and slides, perhaps. But I will do so with a story tonight. And I do this somewhat in dedication and reverence to the families that we see who deal with these things, but this particular family would be here themselves were it not for the trauma that they endured with their epilepsy experience. And it's the story of a little girl. So she was 4 years old, and she is a beautiful, lively, vivacious child. I can't help it, I rehearse the movements as well. Okay, so it's very hard to undo it at this point. So anyway, this little girl is very lively. She's pictured here with her sister. Everybody thinks she's just well. And unfortunately, one day she starts having spells. And she wakes up in a pool of vomit. There's pieces of missing time. She has weakness in her leg, nobody knows why. And of course, by and by, she gets the diagnosis of seizures. Over time, she becomes foggy, encephalopathic, and later, she spends her days on the ground, seizing at least 40 times a day, incurring bodily injury. And I have a quite telling picture of her flanked by her 2 grandmothers, who unfortunately have become very versed in taking care of these events minute by minute. So, by the time she reached me, she had seized for 4 years, every day. I cannot tell you the number of messages this family received about giving up hope. When I see a family like this, I use my grid, which I borrowed, but probably stole, from Dr. Blaise Bourgeois, who was my chief at the time. And it illustrates how I talk to the families on the first visit, which is that we comb through all of the details, beginning with the first type of spell or seizure, what was done, what medication was started, what dose was used, any positive side effects, negative side effects, any correlating EEGs, MRIs, lab studies, everything. And it goes row by row, and you see the new meds getting added and the new seizure types coming in. And her map was very extensive. It took us more than 3 hours on a Friday afternoon. And at that point, I scribbled in the corner, DEE, because I figured at the very least we're dealing with this. And of course, her EEG biomarker cinched it. It was classic textbook spike and wave in awake. And when she went to sleep, again, classic tonic seizures with generalized paroxysmal fast activity. So we had the talk. And she fell squarely into the realm of consideration for things like trials, surgery, resection, stimulation, diet. This family, as many times happens, was not ready to approach surgery or something irreversible. And at the time, this patient is walking and self-feeding and, you know, can easily just take an M&M from a friend at school and be out of diet. So, oral medications it was. At this time, there were 2 FDA-approved LGS medications for which she had not been trialed. And there was also 1 clinical trial for which she could be a candidate. And if you are a family with somebody with refractory disease and epilepsy, you're going to want all your options laid out on the table in front of you and explained by your provider. So the family reasoned that the trial is available for a finite period of time, and the other medications have been approved and they will be around for a while. So they opted for trial. 1 week into randomization, she stopped having daytime seizures. Within 3 weeks, she stopped having nighttime seizures. In some degree of disbelief, we checked her EEG, and we show complete absence of spike wave discharges. On the following page, we see some emergence of normal patterns. And I would make follow-up slides, but it would be rather boring because she has now been seizure-free with multiple long-term EEGs, not a single spike wave, awake or asleep. She passes for a normal child. To drive home the profundity of the effect of this on the family, one of her grandmothers, who was constantly at her side, has since passed away. She donated her body to science, and she died in a bed at NIH with the words that she could rest easily, knowing that her granddaughter was now safe. What difference, I ask you, did one choice make for this family? Now, for those of you, or us, who thought this was a fluke, We now have pushing 10 Lennox-Gastaut patients at our center, mostly children, who are seizure-free on a combination of newer medications and trial medications. I would normally go through cases, show you some data. You can come to AES, I'll talk to you there. But sometimes the best litmus test of what we are doing is the testimony of the families. And I had a beautiful slide that I didn't make that has all the quotes, such as, "I met my child for the first time. This saved our marriage." I can't remember the rest. But imagine having a 13-year-old, unruly, large, strong, walking, but not talking, autistic son who sees us every day. Imagine that by and by, he stops seizing. He sits with you at the dinner table. He learns to feed. He holds your hand walking down the street. And he learns to say his first words at 13. Imagine then, one day, he turns to you and says, "I love you, Mama. I love you, Mama." Okay. So could it be that we can expect better things for even the most difficult to treat patients? Could it be that we can do more than just hitting the seizure count? Could it be that we can be more generous with our hope? The brilliance of this conference is its mission to push for the highest level of care for all patients. By shining the light on the farthest reaches of what we know, we are building bridges between patients and families. We are giving tools to people with epilepsy to rewrite their story. We are the purveyors of hope. And to close with the words from the Swedish environmentalist Greta Thunberg, somebody possibly more obstinate than I am. Once we start to act, hope is everywhere.